صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا الذين جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار على رسول الله وآله الأطهار صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Inshallah, tonight we'll be reciting Dua Tawassul, and through the Tawassul of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we implore and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to relieve the suffering, the oppression that's happening currently in the countries of Iran, in Lebanon, in Gaza, all over the world, inshallah, but especially in these countries, the hardship they are facing, the number of martyrs that have befallen, the number of injured, the number of displaced, the innocent civilians that have lost their homes, lost their whole livelihoods, but they still persevere and they're still, inshallah, they have hope. So inshallah, we also have hope, and we would like to, inshallah, beseech Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Ahlul Bayt to protect them all and to alleviate their sufferings and to hasten their appearance of Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن، يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها اشفع لنا. يا فاطمة الزهراء، يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيهة اشفعي لنا. يا أبا محمد، يا حسن بن علي، أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها يا أبا عبد الله، يا حسين بن علي، أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، يا أبا الحسن، يا علي بن الحسين، يا زين العابدين، يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها يا أبا جعفر، يا محمد بن علي، أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه. يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا عبد الله، يا جعفر بن محمد، أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه. يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا الحسن، يا موسى بن جعفر، أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه. يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا الحسن، يا علي بن موسى، أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه. يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا جعفر، يا محمد بن علي، أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه. يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا الحسن، يا علي بن محمد، أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه. يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا محمد، يا حسن بن علي، أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه. يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها يا وجيها يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين.
Inshallah, just a couple of quick announcements before we get started. Tonight is actually Sheikh Salim's last night with us here. The next 2 nights, he has to travel back to his home, and inshallah he'll be joining us again for Salat al-Eid on Friday. So may Allah give him the tawfiq and a safe journey back and forth from his home. So tomorrow night and Thursday night, Haj Kauthar Khan will be joining us, and he will be giving the speech. The Salat al-Eid, as all of you know, it's been sent out in the emails and the messages. It will be on this Friday at Ronald Reagan Park, starting at 9:30. So please be there on time. There is we would like to have the recitation of Dua al-Nudba, but we do also realize that it is going to be a very hot day. So please, please prepare yourselves in advance. It is going to be very hot. If any families want to bring with them their own canopies, please feel free to. We'll be bringing some, but obviously it won't be enough for the whole entire community. So please, if you have a canopy at home that you would like to bring with you, you're more than welcome. And do please bring your chairs as well. It is an open park with very limited seating. So please do bring your chairs, bring a canopy. Bring some water. So please be very ready. It's a hot day, but inshallah it'll be the morning. So we're hoping, before the afternoon that we'll have gotten the best of the weather at that time. And regarding the Zakat al-Fitr, again, you can, Yasin does accept the Zakat like always, like every year. I made a quick announcement today in the WhatsApp that if you do Zelle your zakat, you do need to fill out an offline donation form. So then that way we know how to use the transaction. We know that specifically those funds are to be used for the zakat and not for anything else. And without further ado, please help me in welcoming Sheikh Salim Yusufali with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
No problem.
My sincere apologies. Very importantly, I forgot. Let us please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the sponsors of today's dinner. There were a couple of families that sponsored it, and one of the marhumin for one of the families is Hajj Abdul Hassan Bazzi, and the other marhumin, they would like to just keep them anonymous. But please recite Surah Al-Fatiha with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Brothers and sisters, before we begin, one more request for Surah Al-Fatiha for all the martyrs, all the shuhada, and all those who have been slaughtered. And today there was news of the bombing of a hospital in Afghanistan as well too. And so for the sake of all these innocent souls and the martyrs and the shuhada, let's recite one more Surah Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. So tonight is my last night here. I'd want to say thank you and acknowledge the efforts of the organizers of these programs, the volunteers, participants. May Allah reward you for all your efforts. Doing these type of programs every single night for a whole month is a lot of sacrifice. And I know that there are some people who go way above and beyond even what we can see in terms of their personal sacrifices, their efforts, their time, their money, their family. So I wanted to thank all of you for your hospitality and for your participation. May Allah reward you all. And if there's anything that I've said or done that was hurtful, please forgive me from my side, inshallah. We can leave without anything on our account. And for the acceptance of all your efforts and your a'mal, please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Last night, we began to look at some of the advice that Sayyid ibn Tawus has for his son and his children regarding the cloak. And we said that there were two things that he advised his son. He said that if you have these two things, they are going to help you tremendously. Right? What were those two qualities that Sayyid ibn Tawus mentioned yesterday? Who remembers? Who knows? Ikhlas is one of them. Ikhlas meaning purity and sincerity. And the second one was tawakkul, Okay, tawakkul meaning reliance on Allah. And he said that these two are like fortresses, right? They're gonna protect you, but if you let go of them, then you're making an opening in your fortress, and that opening is gonna allow shaitan to come and take you away from Allah. So these two things are very important. Now tonight we want to look at some of the other specific advice he has about the cloak and what kind of cloak we can get the cloak from Allah. Meaning, how can we adorn ourselves with this beautiful adornment of clothing of spirituality from Allah. So he says, so he talks about, first of all, taklif, okay? Taklif meaning responsibility. He says, "Know, my son Muhammad, may God multiply for you the honor of his care and the gifts of his generosity, that among the greatest blessings Allah has given you is that he honored you by making you responsible to know him, to know his messenger, to know the imams from his family, to know his law, and to act in obedience to him." Question for you: when is it that Allah honored you by making you responsible? When did that happen? When is it that Allah honored you by making you responsible to know these things? When? In Alam al-Dhar? Okay. Yeah. When you reach the age of taklif. Okay, when you reach the age of taklif, that's a very important rite of passage, right? Where you are now becoming honored by receiving taklif from Allah. And this, by the way, is one of the very important things that Sayyid ibn Tawus taught, like the entire Muslim ummah, meaning that Sayyid ibn Tawus is very famous for this emphasis on seeing taklif as an honor. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. He says that it is such a great blessing that no amount of gratitude from those who give thanks can fully repay it, and no amount of effort from those who strive can fulfill its rights. Think about this. The earth from which we were created, if it were told, well, it was just earth, wish for the greatest thing you can imagine, its highest wish would probably be what? So I deliberately, I'm not showing the rest of the sentence right here. I want to see if you can tell me what the rest of the sentence should be here. So who can guess what the rest of the sentence would be if you had to complete the sentence of Sayyid ibn Tawus here? What would you say the rest of the sentence would be? What do you think? So what would the earth say? Wish for the greatest thing you can imagine. The highest wish would probably be what? What is it? The sky? To be the sky? To be part of a human being. You're being too philosophical. Just be simple here. Okay, the earth, you ask the earth, right? You're like, what's your highest dream, right? Highest dream, like, you know, and what would it want to be? Look at the picture of the earth right here. What would it want? Water, life. What else? Ideally, what would it be? Yeah, I heard it. What? Greenery, right? What else? Huh? Like a well? Okay. Like a water source, air, okay, yeah. Fruits, yeah, fruit trees, right? I mean, think about, like, this is not a very attractive piece of land right here, right? How many of you would be willing to, like, live here, right? But if, let's see, take a look at the picture now. Now look at that, right? Imagine that becomes that. Then you'd be like, wow, that's amazing, right? So the earth can transform into that with the right amount of water, vegetation, plants, greenery, flowers, and then it becomes like an amazing place. Who wouldn't want to be taking a stroll there? So he says that the earth's highest wish would probably be that God bring it to life with water, plants, trees, and flowers. That is the life of the earth and dust. Okay, that's what it aspires towards. That's when it becomes alive. All right, now, this is a review question from a few nights ago. What's our connection to that earth? Remember? What is the connection of the human being to the earth? Remember that thing that we read about it? Yeah? What's the connection between us and the earth? No? Okay. We're made from it, right? We're made from, remember he said that you're not made from fire, you're not made from light, remember that? He said that you're made from the earth, and that's the thing that everyone steps on, and nobody values it, right? So we're made from it, but we have another type of life, right? When we become alive on a spiritual sense, it's more than just growing like flowers, right? Or looking flowery or looking colorful, right? It's something much, much more important than that, right? Even though we're from the same substance, and that's Allah's blessing on us. Why am I emphasizing this? Because we have a lot of parents in this room. Okay, we have a lot of children who are getting close to the age of taklif, or they've reached the age of taklif, right? We need to see this in the right perspective, that what actually it is. It is an opportunity to truly become alive. It's a great blessing, right? It's not a chore. It's not like now all your fun and freedom is taken away from you. It's an opportunity, right? And this is how you can try to explain it, right? Like those of you who are teachers, or those of you who are parents, you can try to explain it by giving these analogies. You can say that, what's the highest that the earth can aspire to? Okay, here, look at a tree. What's the highest that it can aspire to? Look at the clouds. Look at this, right? But you're a human being. What can you do, right? So that's what he's going to talk about next. He says, Allah's favor towards the human being who was created from that same earth went far beyond that. He raised the human above those lowly beginnings and made him worthy of being guided to the sacred knowledge of the divine and the rights of his blessings. Meaning that human beings, right, they have this opportunity to gain this sacred knowledge. The earth can't learn that. Animals can't learn that, right? Iblis couldn't learn that. It's only human beings who can learn that sacred knowledge. He honors him by allowing him to serve him. Now, this is really important. One of the crises that we face in modern times is that we tend to have a very low sense of ourselves, right? And there's different reasons for it. It could be social media. It could be not having a proper tarbiyah environment. But we tend to have a very low perspective. We're thinking that, who are we, right? I'm nothing, right? I'm a loser, right? That's kind of a mentality. Here, he's going to reset that thinking for us. He's going to say, look at, why are you saying you're a loser? Allah has honored you in so many ways. Realize these ways. Okay? It's not just about, the person who is at the top 1% of what the worldly standards set, who's a winner. No, we're honored. How are we honored? Because he made us worthy of knowing him. He honors us by allowing us to serve him. He dignifies him by being in conversation with him and private sittings with him. I mean, imagine that Allah invites us to have ana jalisu man jalasani, right? I am the one, Allah says in Hadith al-Qudsi, I am the one who's going to sit with the one who comes and sits with me, right? I mean, that's incredible, right? What great person who's like really famous would ever be like, I have an open invitation. Whenever you come and see me, right, I'll come and sit with you. A lot of people would be like, yeah, I'll do that. Maybe I'll give you an appointment after 2 years, right? In that, if you're lucky. But Allah says at any time, ana jalisu man jalasani. I'm willing to sit with you. You come talk to me. I'm going to talk with you. Okay, this is incredible. And private sittings. And by preparing for him the heavens and the earth and all that is in them, with all their benefits through his power. He placed all of this at the service of the human being's needs and happiness through his knowledge and will, until it reaches the point, through his care and mercy, until it reaches the point that God, through his care and mercy, looks after the human being by clothing his body with the cloth of purity. So this is maybe a little bit philosophical, but what he's saying here is that Allah gives us that cloak. Okay, and the way he gives us that cloak is by our being committed to our taklif. At every time, I should try to understand what is my responsibility. As long as I'm pursuing that in the best way that I can, then I will be given that cloak from Allah. Okay, that's like one of his main points. So he says that every human being has a spiritual birthday. Okay, and this goes back to the concept of what's known as, like we say, like in Farsi we say, or in Persian we say Jashn Taklif, right? And maybe other cultures they use different wordings for it. That there's a celebration that is held when people reach the age of taklif. Okay, so what does he say? He says, so when you reach the time, and this is good news, by the way, for some of you, maybe especially the children here, that you have an opportunity here to add another celebration, for yourself, okay, into your yearly celebration here. So inshallah, this is a good thing for you guys. But I'm going to explain why and how. So he says, when you reach the time, my son Muhammad, when God honors you with the full maturity of your intellect, then treat that moment as something very special. God, exalted is His Majesty, is worthy of allowing you to come close to Him, to meet Him through worship, and to enter into His sacred presence by obeying Him. Right? This is what taklif is about. It's an incredible invitation that Allah is saying that you can come close to me now. Okay? Practically, I'm going to give you a very practical example of how this is practiced and how parents sometimes make a mistake when it comes to this regard. Sometimes parents don't have this bigger perspective. So when it comes to taklif, right, in their minds, they say that if I have my child do this when they're a child, when they reach the age of taklif, then they'll have formed the habit and it will become easy for them. Okay? Now, in some things, we're told that that's a good thing. For example, prayers, we're told that when a child reaches the age of 9, if they're a guy, and a little bit earlier if they're a girl, then they should be, doing their prayers, like, maybe not necessarily every single prayer all the time, right? But they should have been, kind of accustomed to it. It's very important to get them into that, to train them to do that. But for fasting, what are we told the children should do from the age of 9 if they're boys, and a little bit earlier if they're girls, when it comes to fasting? What are we told specifically from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim in terms of how they should fast? Half a day, right? They should fast half a day, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And then when they get hungry, they should be told what? Break your fast, okay? So when a child does that, okay, and then let's say one day the child comes and says that, I want to keep the whole day fast, right? One parent might say that, oh, mashallah, that's great. If you do that, I'm going to give you a gift, right? And that's fine. If you want to do that, it's okay. But another approach is this, is that the parent says that, no, my son, no, my daughter, you haven't reached the age of taklif yet, where you have the honor of keeping a full day of fast. Wait till you get to that age, and that's the first time that you are going to be honored by being allowed to keep a full day fast. Now imagine when that child reaches the age of taklif, right? For most children, what would happen? They would be what? They'd be eager. They'd be like, finally, I can keep that full day of fast. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that it's a wajib thing I'm saying here. I'm just saying this is an approach which, in my opinion, is a better approach than the other approach, where it's like a child sometimes, a child will be 5 years old and, the family will throw a big party. Why would they throw a big party? Because my 5-year-old kept his first fast, full day fast. And it's like, wait a minute, right? First of all, that's below the age when they're supposed to be asked to keep half fasts. Second of all, right, even if they're keeping half fast, there's no special merit in doing something beyond what the Ahlul Bayt themselves did, right? Ahlul Bayt are a standard for what's right and what's wrong. Okay, so this is where we can use this concept. It's like, no, you're not ready for this yet. Like imagine, for example, we have young children who want to wake up for suhoor. That's fine. That's part of it. That's okay, right? I mean, if you think it's good, but that's different from you let them wake up for suhoor, but then they break it half the day. But there are some things where, as parents, you can kind of say that, oh, when you get older, right, then you get to be part of the special people who gets woken up for Fajr prayer. It's like, oh wow, right? That's something I'm looking forward to when I get to that age. Okay, yeah. No, so when it comes to children, again, like when around the age of, in Hadith we're told 9 years old for boys. For girls, there's no specific age, but maybe, like say 7 years old or something like that, right? Then it should be like half fasts, okay? Now, when a child gets to the age where, of course, when they're baligh, right? If they're close to being baligh, like they've reached that level of maturity where the fast is no longer even, they can do it, it's not that much of a problem for them, then they can talk to their parents about it. And then the parents need to decide. And the parents, they need to decide what the strategy is. Are they going to wait until the child becomes baligh, and that's the first time they're going to allow? Or will they say, for example, that, okay, when you're, for example, let's say it's a boy, they'll be like, okay, when you're 11 years old, you can keep 1 day. When you're 12, you can keep 2 days. You know, like that type of thing. So different parents do different things. I don't want to say that this is the way, but I'm just saying that you can use this to your advantage in terms of making taklif be like this. It's like you've reached that level, like, wow, like now you are special, okay? I'll tell you a quick joke here. So one of my friends, like, he was saying that, you know, when his daughter reached a certain age, right, he told her that, well, you know, until now you've been a princess in our home, but now you need to become like the servant, you know, because in hadith we're told that like the child is like you know, a master for 7 years, and then, you know, they're a servant for 7 years. So I'm not saying that his interpretation was correct, but his daughter turned around and said that, oh, well, why didn't you tell me I was a princess for these 7 years? If you had told me, then I would have done things differently, right? So anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that if we think about things in a right way as parents, right, and even as children, like this is something where you're being honored by being allowed to do things that before, you know, you weren't even in that club yet. Now you're in that club. Now you can do that. Okay. All right. So he says, let that time be for you like a marked and remembered date, one of the best and happiest days, like a great celebration. And every year, when your blessed life brings you back to that same time, renew your gratitude, give charity, do good deeds, and serve the one who gave you your intellect, the one who guided you through it to the honor of this world and the next. Know also that I summoned your sister, Sharaful Ashraf, shortly before she reached this stage, and I explained to her as much as she could understand about God, about how God had honored her by allowing her to serve him, whether in big acts or small ones. I have described that situation in the book Al-Bahja li Thamarat al-Muhja. Now, I put this passage in at the end. I was thinking about not including it in the slides, but I put it there because I wanted to make it very clear that Sayyid ibn Tawus wasn't just, you know, concerned about his son, right? He has a book in which he captures things about his daughter as well. Unfortunately, this book never reached us, apparently. Meaning that some books throughout history, they just get lost through various means. And it seemed like this is one of the books that got lost, unfortunately. It would have been really interesting to read what he had written, you know, with relation to his daughter. The other reason why I put it is because I really like that name, Sharaf al-Ashraf. I thought it was like a beautiful name, right? So if you guys are looking for ideas, right, that's something that you can keep in mind. Brothers and sisters, I have to make this point here. Usually when we think about celebrations for children, what do we think about? Like what comes to mind when we think about celebration for children? Birthday, what else? Balloons, yeah, what else? Festival, right? Chuck E. Cheese, right? Okay, do you guys have Chuck E. Cheese here? And yeah, okay. Like that type of stuff, right? Okay? And sometimes, like in communities where people are, you know, starting to realize that this is an important thing, they have these parties for, especially for their daughters. They're called like taklif parties or whatever they want to call it. And then it will become just like another party. Like everyone's bringing gifts, and then there's the balloons, and then there's this and that, and then it's like yet another, you know, event where there's a lot of expenses and a lot of like, you know, keeping up with the Joneses. You know that expression, where you have to do what everyone else does, and so like, oh, they did it, I have to do it as well too, and it can become this big thing with like thousands and thousands of dollars being spent on it. Okay, that's not what he's saying that we should do. Right? And this is where we need to think outside of the box. Even when it comes to weddings, right? Just because every other wedding is done in a certain way doesn't mean that the next wedding has to be done that way as well. We need to look and re-examine and say that what are the principles that have been given to us, you know, from our teachings, and we go from there and we try to develop from there. So one recommendation I have is that the community should organize this gathering, right? And they should use it as a way of not just the first year, but on a regular basis, they have a type of like check-in. As children progress and they mature, there's like these opportunities. I could see like this great, for example, a boys like type of outdoor rugged camp, right? Where you like, you know, go through like even girls too, but I'm just thinking like for when a guy reaches like that, say 13 years old, right, there could be like a thing for all the boys of 13, they go for the first time, and then next year they have another thing, and the next year they have another thing, and it becomes like this thing of like, with this approach about serving God, about giving charity, doing good deeds, and just being recommitted to like this taklif that we've been given from Allah. So there's a lot that we could discuss here, but I just wanted to put these ideas out there because we need to be really thinking about for our children having something that's really catered toward them, like infrastructure in place. Schools are a great step forward and very necessary, and then these other things are also very important. So now what he's going to do is he's going to talk about like some of the types of worship, because our taklif comes in different forms. Our taklif comes in terms of like our family members, our society, but also comes in forms of our ibadah. So in his book, Salim Tawus is going to talk about the different types of worship, and he's giving specific advice about how to go about doing them. Again, like sometimes parents are very, very focused on the fiqh of the prayer and the fiqh of the other things, which is, of course, important. We need to know that and teach that. But the spirit of it and the philosophy of it is very important. Why are we doing it? How should we do it? So I've only taken a short excerpt here from a few of these because I knew we didn't have that much time. But it's really beautiful. I just wanted to say that like it goes beyond this, and there's really, really nice points of what he has to say about this. So about the prayer, he says, first of all, he says, I will mention for each of the 5 types of worship, he's talking about like 5 of the furu'ud-din, some beneficial words for those seeking true success, so that this book is not empty of such reminders. I've explained their deeper meanings more fully in this other book that I have. As for the first of them, the salah, know that it is a call for you to stand in the presence of the Master of the living and the dead. So rush to it with honor and joy at this opportunity. Okay, not everyone gets this call, right? Not the animals don't get the call, right? The people who aren't of the age of taklif, they don't get the call, right? It's the people who have that taklif, they have that intellect, they're the ones who are called for this. It's an honor. Leave aside every activity for which God would not excuse you if it kept you from prayer. If you do not, and this is really important, okay, if we want to look for what to change in our habits when it comes to post-Ramadan, this is one of the areas I highly suggest that we look at, perhaps maybe focusing on. Leave aside every activity for which God would not excuse you if it kept you from the prayer. If you do not, that activity becomes a form of disobedience to your Lord, a belittling of His command, and a dangerous risk from which you cannot be sure you will be safe. Do not pay attention to those who make it seem easy to delay prayer beyond its earliest time. Don't pay attention to them. Test such a person. If they asked you to do something for them and you delayed it, even though you were able to do it right away, they would blame you and say that you do not truly respect or value them. Okay? Now, this is a sensitive issue, and we can take this to the extreme as well. So I want to be careful that we don't do that. Right? Islam is a religion which gives us, it's a moderate religion, it gives us a balanced path. There's a lot of emphasis on praying on the earliest time possible, because not doing so, it's very disrespectful. Right? It doesn't show like what a servant, it doesn't show that like type of love that we should have for our taklif. But there are times where we know that Allah's pleasure lies in delaying the prayer, and delaying it not to the point where it's qada, but delaying it to a point where we've taken care of the immediate need and then we're now able to pray. Right? So I've had, like, for example, sometimes spouses will complain and say that, right when I really need my husband's help or my wife's help with, like, let's say the kids, sometimes they're like, no, the adhan time came right now, I have to go and pray right now. Right? And it's like, okay, like that's important, we're going to acknowledge that. It's not a small thing, it's a big deal. Inshallah, we'll try to arrange our schedule so that doesn't happen. But sometimes it's like, we recognize that, but, we need to deal with this issue right here because, sometimes children aren't going to wait, right? And it's very important. So we have to have that balanced approach, okay? Now, are there times when it's better for us to, it's actually, we're told it's better for us to delay our prayer a bit. Anybody know? Yes. Are you going to answer the question or you have a question? Okay, why don't you answer the question first and we'll get to your question after a bit. Okay. Like when? So first of all, yeah, like we know that sometimes our timetables are approximations and they're not exact. And so in particular for the Fajr prayer, there's a lot of, like, it's not very clear exactly when Fajr is. That's why it's always good to wait for a couple minutes after the adhan finishes, right? So the adhan takes about like 4 or 5 minutes, right? So maybe you wait about 5-7 minutes afterwards, and that's when you do your Fajr prayer. But are there any times when we're told that it's better for us to delay our prayer from the very beginning of the time? Okay, so Jama'ah is one of them, right? If the Jama'ah, now, do we delay to the point where we miss out on the Fadila time for the prayer? That's where the scholars, there's difference of opinion. Some of them say that if it's going to mean that you have to wait until past the Fadila time, like Fadila time might be like, let's say 30 minutes into the prayer or 45 minutes in the prayer, depending on which prayer it is and what time of the year. And then some of them say that no, it's better to go ahead and do that Furada prayer than wait for the Jama'ah. But in general, that is one of the valid reasons. There's another one as well too, in the month of Ramadan in particular. Anybody know? Exactly. So if people are waiting for you to break their fast, and if they're like, and then looking at you, they're like, you're going to go pray. They're like, oh man, like I wanted to like break my fast. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll go pray. In that case, then it's better to break the fast. However, we do have this recommendation that if we're able to, something which is mustahab, if we're able to recite all the 5 prayers in the state of fasting, right? So it's just a recommendation. And so that's why you see that some people will wait until after the Isha to do that, but it's fine. I mean, it's not like something which is wajib. And sometimes for people, for their own digestive system, it's important for them to break their fast earlier and then, So I just wanted to mention that though. So I've taken an excerpt from Al-Urbat al-Wuthqa, where some of the cases where it's okay to, in fact, where it's recommended not to actually delay it a little bit. One of them is where somebody who wants to do the Nafila prayer for Dhuhr and Asr. How many rakahs are there for the Nafila prayer for Dhuhr and Asr? 8, right? So it takes a bit of time to do 8 rakahs. So then in that case, you can delay. The second one is very interesting, that if somebody doesn't have the iqbalul qalb, meaning their heart is kind of distracted for some reason. So if at that time, by waiting, if they'll be able to focus, right, then it's better for them. So sometimes, like for example, somebody may be exhausted, and let's say it's the Dhuhr time, and they're just exhausted. They're like, if I were to take a quick nap, then I'll be a lot more refreshed for my prayer. That's fine. Delaying to wait for Jama'ah, and then another one is delaying Maghrib for one who so strongly has the urge to break the fast. Meaning somebody's just like really, really hungry. They're going to be distracted from their prayer. Go ahead, break it. It's better for you to do that, and then you can do your prayers. Or one who is awaited for iftar, like other people are waiting for them. Okay, zakat. I only have 2 more slides left, or 2 or 3. Every human being who comes into this world begins as poor. All people are, in reality, in a state of deep need. Some people become wealthy earlier and others later, but in truth, all of them at all times are poor before God and in need of Him. None of them had any share in creating the earth, or the resources within it, or the wealth itself, or in organizing how that wealth is carried and brought to them. So in reality, what is the net worth of the billionaire class? 0, right? If I'm a believer, I have to believe that, even though I'm told all the time that, look, they're the billionaires and you're not, right? No. They're 0. Their net worth is 0. Everything is وَلِلَّهِ مُلْكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Everything is in the possession of Allah. So when your grandfather Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sent to you by Allah, the Exalted, with the sacred message written for you, which sacred message is this? The Quran, right? And sorry, Muhammad, you had a question? Yeah. What is it? Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Ahsan. Ahsan. Thank you. Amazing. He says that a few days ago we talked about, or Sayyid Mutawus talked about how social gatherings can initially be for a very good purpose, like visiting the sick or going for a funeral. Highly recommended. And there's great spiritual benefits that can come from it. But they can quickly go the other direction if we don't clear our intention. So we have to be careful about that. So same thing when it comes to this as well, the taklif celebrations. Okay, so he says here that when the message was written for you, asking you to give some zakat from your wealth so that it may be stored for you. Allah asks us He takes it from us and He stores it for us. Made a protection for you from harm. A means, what is he talking about here? Which zakat is a protection for you from harm? Yes, exactly, the sadaqah. Okay, the daily sadaqah is very important. And a means for your provision to be replaced. Is it acceptable, according to reason or revelation, that you would hesitate to deliver part of that wealth to him or delay in responding to his request for what he's saving for you? It doesn't make sense. Excuse me. So, practically speaking, khums can be very complicated to calculate when you talk about, investments and 401ks and stocks and crypto and, loans and mortgages and so many other things. It can be very complicated. It can take a while to figure out how to actually calculate it, but it's well worth the effort because otherwise it's, it's illogical not to do that. Spirit of fasting. He says that as for fasting, its outward form is that you already fast at night while asleep. Okay, what does that mean? You already fast at night while you sleep. You're not eating when you're sleeping. So did you, we think about fasting being like such a big deal. It's like, I'm going to have to go for like so many hours without eating. It's like, wait a minute. You do that every day, right? Every day you go so many hours without eating. So all it is switching the time when you do it. Before you're doing it at night, now you're going to do it at daytime. So he says that this is for everyone. Everyone has that. Everyone does a thing where they fast at night. But now you get that special invitation. It's like, okay, do this during the daytime. Then Allah exalted in His majesty, reversed the arrangement and granted you a longing and good standing through your deeds so that you can come to eat. You came to eat at night and fast during the day. So again, this is about how you explain this to children. Like, why do we fast, right? It's like for children, it's a lot easier for them to accept something when they realize it's not such a foreign thing. It's like you're already used to this, right? It's like there's a technique where it's called scaffolding, right? Where they understand something already, you work on that, and then you build up from there. This fasting is a discipline for the righteous. Through it, and through what Allah teaches them from it and from the other acts, their hearts become filled with light and they come to perceive some of the realities that Allah allows them to know. There's more that he says about each one of these. I just wanted to give you a snippet from each one just to get a flavor of it because this is the last night. And the last one is about Hajj. So he says here, as for Hajj to Allah, by intending His sacred house, may Allah honor you, my son, by granting you a complete pilgrimage if He wills. And, in month of Ramadan, one of the du'as that we make is about وَارْزُقْنِي حَجَّ بَيْتِكَ الْحَرَامِ. We're asking Allah for giving us that Hajj. Know, and inshallah it's written on the Laylatul Qadr as well too. Know that whoever sets out for Hajj for the sake of anything other than Allah, his intention is lost and his path is spoiled. This is super interesting that the one thing that he's going to highlight above everything else about Hajj, there's so much you could talk about, right? He could be talking about the tawaf, he could be talking about the sa'i, he could talk about sacrifice, he could be talking about so many different themes. But the one thing is that if you're going to go for Hajj, do it with ikhlas. Remember we said that there's ikhlas and tawakkul? It's really important. So he says, know that whoever sets out for Hajj for the sake of anything other than Allah, his intention is lost and his path is spoiled. Every goal should be sought through Allah and for Allah alone. Then he gives an example, a story. He says, once, my son, we were on the way to the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We were in a state of tayammum. Why were they in a state of tayammum? They didn't have access to water, right? So in a state of tayammum, and we needed to perform our obligatory and recommended prayers as God had guided us. So, but our companions began to hurry us along. So Sayyid Tawus probably was doing all the nafila prayers. He's doing a proper prayer, and his companions are let's hurry up. We're going to get to the haram, and we're going to be able to get access to water and clean ourselves, and then we can visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Right? Let's hurry up and do that. It's kind of like when we go on the plane, we take a trip let's say if we go for ziyarah, sometimes on the plane ride, I mean, almost pretty much you are going to have a point where you have to pray on the plane, right? Because if you're traveling east, you're going to have to pray on the plane. Now, imagine you're going for ziyarah and somebody says that I'm not going to pray on the plane. It's like, because I want to get to, I just want to get to the haram and that's where I want to do my ibadah. It's like, wait a minute, what are we going for, right? So same thing. He says, are we going to Imam Hussein alayhi salam for the sake of God, or are we going to God for the sake of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Right? So it's very important. So then they replied, rather we are going to Imam Hussein alayhi salam for the sake of Allah. I said to them, if we neglect Allah on the path that we are traveling for His sake in order to reach Imam Hussein alayhi salam, then what will our condition be when we reach Imam Hussein alayhi salam? With what will we face? With what face will we meet him and meet Allah if we come seeking his blessing after having neglected what Allah required of us? Then they realized that they had been mistaken. Okay. Same thing comes up like when we go for ziyarah. Let's say that somebody is so eager to touch the shrine that they go and they elbow everyone on the way up there, and they're like, it's like, oh, I made it, right? Okay, you made it, but at what expense? Right? I think people are chuckling because like I'm sure there's lots of stories about this, right? Like what expense, right? I mean, you really like that's the goal? Is that the goal, right? Or if so, in all these things, he's saying that it's about serving Allah, right? So especially when it comes to Hajj, it's one of those things where you get tested about what are you truly going there for? What is truly your Hajj means to intend. The word Hajja means qasada. So what is your maqsood? What is that you actually are going and intending and aiming at? So with that, we are going to sadly close this book, at least for now. But alhamdulillah, we thank Allah that He allowed us to have access to this wisdom. Imagine that this book had been lost like that other book, then we wouldn't have had this. But we have this, and it's such a treasure and legacy. And inshallah, whatever we learn from it, we can ponder upon it and then apply it and act upon it, and inshallah convey it to others. We ask Allah Ta'ala to help us to become closer to the Quran and the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and to gain true knowledge and pure knowledge in this month of Ramadan. We ask Him to be pleased with us and to forgive us for our rebelliousness and our sins, and to accept us despite our shortcomings. We ask Him to purify our hearts, make us sincere in His worship and committed to His cause. We ask Him to give us strong families and strong communities in preparation for the coming of the Imam of the time. We ask Him to relieve those who are oppressed of their oppression and grant them victory over the oppressors. And we ask Him to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of the time with the barakah of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Before we conclude with ziyarah, I do want to take this opportunity to thank Sheikh Salim and Yusufali for coming. I don't think a lot of us realize how much sacrifice he made to come here for these last couple of weeks, time away from his family, from his hometown, from his community, all in the month of Ramadan while in a state of fasting. It's something, it's very, very difficult to get scholars to come during this time. And we truly, truly, from the bottom of our hearts, thank Sheikh Salim for coming. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept his sincere efforts, to reward him and to protect him and his family, and to give him a safe journey back home, and inshallah another safe journey back to us on Friday. And please, if you would like Sheikh Salim to return and for his tawfiq, please recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا حبيب الله يا محمد بن عبد الله ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ويا سيد الوصيين يا علي بن أبي طالب ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء يا سيدة نساء العالمين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكما يا إمامين الشهيدين المظلومين يا إمام الحسن ويا إمام الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم يا أئمة الهدى من ذرية الحسين يا علي بن الحسين ويا محمد بن علي ويا جعفر بن محمد ويا موسى بن جعفر ويا علي بن موسى ويا محمد بن علي ويا علي بن محمد ويا حسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا محمد بن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي، عجل الله تعالى فرجه، عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه، وجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. Let's conclude with دعاء الحجة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
You said you liked the